R-Truth is our main topic for this edition of the show. This is huge news, guys, considering R-Truth was just, I should say, he just had a major match with John Cena last Saturday at Saturday Night's Main Event. Ron the Truth Killings, or Ron Killings, which is his real life name, he took to Twitter and informed all of us that he's getting released from WWE. In a tweet by Ron Killings, he stated, and I quote, "I'm sorry to inform you all, I just got released from WWE. I want to thank WWE for the ride, but mostly I want to thank each and every one of you who was along for the ride. Thank you for all the love, support, and appreciation you have given me over the years. Thank you," and a praying emoji. Now, this took the wrestling world by storm, considering everybody loves R-Truth. Everybody, I don't care who you are, loves R-Truth. We all know R-Truth is super talented at what he does, but this came to a shock to a lot of people, including myself. And the reason why I say that is because of the fact that, again, R-Truth just wrestled John Cena this past Saturday at Saturday Night's Main Event. Hell, he even made appearances, I believe, on SmackDown. No, I believe it was either Raw or SmackDown. I actually didn't finish watching SmackDown this past Friday. Number one, I just can't stand watching SmackDown, considering SmackDown is a 3-hour show, but that's besides the point. But again, R-Truth literally made an appearance just days ago, like just a couple of days ago. And all of a sudden he's being informed by WWE that he got released from his contract, or WWE is not going to be renewing his contract. They're not going to sign him to a new deal. What are my thoughts on this whole scenario? Number one, this sucks. This sucks. And to me, it's a major mistake on WWE's end, but I will continue to give my thoughts. In an update by PW Insider, PW Insider has been told that Truth's tweet is accurate, that his current WWE deal will not be renewed, and he is exiting. Truth's WWE run dates back to 1999 when he was first signed to a developmental deal. He exited in 2001 and had a nice run with TNA before returning to WWE in 2008, where he turned into one of the company's true utility players, especially when it comes to bringing levity into storylines. He just wrestled John Cena on last weekend's Saturday Night's Main Event broadcast on NBC. So yeah, R-Truth is not getting renewed by WWE, and he's essentially gone from the company. Overall thoughts on this? This absolutely sucks. I don't know what to say. I feel like I'm speechless. This came to a shock by a lot of people. Number one, out of all the people that you release somebody that brings a sense of joy into the locker room, that being R-Truth. Because I don't care what anybody says, R-Truth is 100% a likable guy, like one of the most likable guys in the locker room. Literally one of the most likable guys in the locker room. There is not a bad word to be said about Ron Killings. Not a bad word, not a peep. Not only that, he just wrestled John Cena this past Saturday at Saturday Night's Main Event. And now he was informed today by WWE that he's going to be gone from the company. This only stems on one thing. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to bring them up because I always bring them up, but it's TKO. They're essentially cutting costs. From my assumption, what I think happened was they saw how much he was making. And they viewed him as, hey, this guy is expendable. We can cut him. Or let's just not renew his contract because we're not going to give this guy more money. Because you know how TKO operates, or Endeavor operates. Especially ever since they took over WWE. They're UFC-ifying WWE, if that makes any sense. They're UFC-ifying WWE. They're going to look at any single metric that they think is wasting money on their end, and they're going to look at that and be like, you're gone. And that's unfortunately what happened to R-Truth. That's what happened to Braun Strowman as well. What do you think happened to Braun Strowman? Braun Strowman got released from the WWE twice. The second time he got released from the WWE was fairly recently. Like, I believe, what was it, 2 months ago? He was a part of those batch of releases. And a lot of people assumed there's only one reason as to why he got released from the WWE, and it's the simple fact that he was just making too much money. He was making way too much money. TKO is the type of company that only care about one thing and one thing alone, and that is the bottom line. You know, I've tweeted this out, and I stated this on Twitter today. There's nothing wrong with making money, by the way. There's nothing wrong with making money. If anything, that should be the number one thing to any business. If you are running a business, that your number one priority should be the bottom line, 100%. But if you do it at the expense of the talent, and if you do it at the expense of the fans and the people that buy your product, that's where I draw the line. And that's what TKO has been doing ever since they took over the WWE. And it's very notable, especially in this day and age. A lot of people are saying, why don't we blame Triple H? Do you think Triple H has anything to do with these releases? I don't know. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I have no idea. But Triple H is only at the head of creative. He answers to the people at TKO. I think TKO are the ones making the decision. I may be totally wrong. But, I mean, you've clearly seen TKO's motives ever since they took over the company. You see there's sponsors all over the ringside area, sponsors on the ring mat, which, by the way, again, I have no problems with sponsors on the ring mat. If one of your issues is sponsors on the ring mat, you're clearly the problem, because if you're somebody that complains about that and watches New Japan, you are clearly hypocritical. Because New Japan has sponsors all over their ring mat, but literally almost every segment would be commercialized. Like if you watch a PLE, everything is sponsored. You can tell they will literally sponsor anything and anything, everything and or everything. It's insane. It's gone way too much. I understand, again, WWE is a business, but it's gotten to the point where it's starting to affect, your viewing of WWE. And it unfortunately sucks, in my opinion, but it is what it is. But out of all people to release, they released R-Truth. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say R-Truth should have been a main event guy, blah, 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 because if you really think about it, R-Truth throughout the majority of his run in the WWE, because he had 2 runs in the WWE. He had one run back in the early 2000s where he was K-Quick, and then he got cut. I believe he got cut. And then, of course, spent throughout the majority of the 2000s in TNA when TNA first started. And if you guys don't know this, he was actually the first ever black NWA world champion. So that is an accomplishment in and of itself. He was a part of the 3 Live crew with, of course, Road Dogg or BG James. And, of course, he did his own music. And then he left TNA and ended up going back to the WWE, and he's been there ever since. Was R-Truth ever a main event guy? In the eyes of WWE, no. And if you really want to look at it in the eyes of the wrestling fan, he wasn't really a main event guy either. And look, he did have his heel run in 2011. And I remember his heel run back in 2011 vividly. I was a big fan of R-Truth. Lil Jimmy, you gonna get got. I remember that. I loved heel R-Truth. I just did. But after that, he was just a comedy act on WWE programming. But he wasn't just any comedy act on WWE programming. He was actually a funny comedy act on WWE TV. And he's evolved with his comedy acts. He always played the dumb gimmick. There's 5 guys in a tournament to determine who's the new champion. And R-Truth comes out of nowhere saying that he's officially a part of this tournament. Or he comes out and says, oh yeah, I'm going to be a part of Money in the Bank, even though it's not a Money in the Bank match. And he's like, this was on me, my bad. I loved that stuff. R-Truth was really entertaining. When they brought in the 24/7 championship, and look, I was very critical of the 24/7 championship simply because of the fact that it was just a stupid idea. But R-Truth made that stupid idea work, and he made it entertaining to watch. Even though it was very repetitive, R-Truth made it work. R-Truth made it work. His work in the Judgment Day this past year, don't even get me started. Him officially, quote unquote, being a part of the Judgment Day, even though he wasn't, was hilarious television. Hilarious television. His work with John Cena fairly recently was really good too. Even though I wasn't as excited for John Cena versus R-Truth at, Saturday night's main event, I understood why they booked the match. But when it comes to that, we look back at that and we were like, wow, could WWE or R-Truth have known that they were going to eventually release R-Truth, or could WWE have known that they were going to release R-Truth, or R-Truth could have known that he was going to get released, and WWE gave him a quote-unquote proper send-off with this match with John Cena that he had this past Saturday on NBC. I don't know. But I will tell you one thing. In my opinion, this was a major mistake on WWE's end. Out of anybody that they could have released, they released the one guy that was literally like the shining light of the entire locker room, that being R-Truth. There's not one bad thing to be said about R-Truth at all. Not a peep. Not one bad thing to be said about R-Truth. And WWE was like, yeah, this guy's expendable. Get him out of here. Or we're not going to renew your contract. WWE/TKO, they are greedy. Again, there's nothing wrong with making money, but if it's at the expense of your talent and at the expense of the people that pay money to watch your product, that's where I draw the line. That's where I have a problem. And unfortunately, R-Truth is the victim of that. Now, we got a couple of updates right over here regarding R-Truth. Of course, I actually get a lot of my updates from the WrestleHavoc account because he literally informs everybody. But the backstage reaction was very, very controversial. One talent, according to PW Insider, commented that R-Truth's contract not being renewed made them feel as if, quote unquote, nothing is guaranteed, essentially saying nobody is safe. Another talent, according to PW Insider, noted that R-Truth's departure made them want to make sure that their next contract with the company was negotiated and locked in, quote unquote, well in advance. Yeah. But I'm going to go back to that comment of nothing is guaranteed. I agree. Nothing is guaranteed when you're in the WWE. The WWE, one moment can take a look at you and be like, man, this guy's a star. But if they're not using you effectively enough, one of those days could come by and be like, you know what? We've used it before, but we're not really doing anything with you. You're expendable. We're going to release you. That's what happens because WWE is a corporate environment. Unfortunately, it is. And it's been that way ever since they first went public back in, what was it, 99 or 2000. They've been a publicly traded company for like well over 20 years. They've been a publicly traded company for well over 20 years. It's always been that way. Always been that way. Unfortunately. Nothing is guaranteed. They could literally chop you right off the block real quick. It's not a game, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to WWE. Not a game. According to Fightful Select, R-Truth's departure has been met with complete shock and disbelief, with one top talent calling it, quote unquote, total nonsense, and another calling this regime, quote unquote, ruthless. They are ruthless. Number one, this decision to let go of R-Truth is insane and total nonsense, and this regime is very ruthless with the business decisions that they've been making. Totally ruthless. I've always said these people are like they only care about the bottom line, and that is it. They don't care about the talent. They don't care about anybody else. And I'm talking about the people at TKO. I'm not necessarily talking about guys like Triple H, because I feel like, again, Triple H or Paul Levesque, whatever you want to call him, he's only in the creative position. I do think he has a say in, what signing or what guy they want to bring from, New Japan or AEW or TNA. And I feel like he does have a say in the talent that he does want to bring in. And I do feel like at some point, but it's only like a small amount, I feel like he does have somewhat, not a lot, somewhat of a say in the talent that they released. But again, he answers to the people at TKO. That's who he answers to. That's his boss. Triple H only focuses on the creative aspect of WWE. And the media and the content that they produce. That's it. Could he have a say in these releases? Maybe. Maybe he does. I don't know. But from my perspective, I feel like this is a TKO move in them cutting costs. They saw the amount of money that R-Truth was making, and they were like, I think that is too much money for a guy like R-Truth, for a comedy act on television. I feel like that's how they viewed the whole situation. If they see you making a little bit too much money, then they're going to get you out. It sucks. It really does suck. In other news, right after the whole R-Truth news dropped, Carlito Carlito is on the chopping block, and he will be leaving World Wrestling Entertainment. According to PW Insider, similar to R-Truth, Carlito's current deal will not be renewed, and once it runs its course, he will be departing from the company. So WWE is not going to re-sign Carlito. And he was a part of the Judgment Day. He was a part of a minor portion of the Judgment Day, but he was a part of the Judgment Day. And he was actually a very entertaining act when it comes to the Judgment Day. Carlito actually took to Twitter and stated this, and I quote, "My contract is up in 2 weeks. It will not be renewed. On top of that, WWE is demanding I pay back the money that they paid me for apparently, quote unquote, stealing money from the company. I had my lawyers look into it, and after reviewing the footage on Netflix for the past couple of months, they suggested I pay them the money back." Of course, he is joking when he says that. All jokes aside, gracias WWE, and especially the WWE Universe. Los quiero mucho, that being I love you all. P.S. I'll reappear again in another 13 days. Dios me los bendiga. Carlito is gone from the company as well. Carlito is gone from World Wrestling Entertainment. Again, it does suck because he made his return. He literally made his return 2 years ago at the Backlash show. I believe it was during the Damian Priest and Bad Bunny match, and it was fantastic. If you guys haven't watched Bad Bunny versus Damian Priest at Backlash in Puerto Rico, arguably one of the best matches of 2023. I guarantee you that. But still, man, it really, really, really does suck that not only, the contracts of both R-Truth and Carlito are not going to be renewed. What's even worse is that, in my opinion, from what I see, and from the motives that TKO has been really, having recently, number one, if there's anything that I can take away from this whole situation is that they just view guys like R-Truth and Carlito as just expendable. They don't really view anything in them. And especially with the news about WrestleMania 42 being pulled out of New Orleans and most likely they're going to be headed back to Las Vegas. Clearly that was a money move on TKO. Clearly that was a money move. And if anything, I could make the argument that they screwed over New Orleans when that happened. They essentially screwed over New Orleans. I don't care if anybody says, "Oh, but they did it the legal." No, they screwed over New Orleans because they made the announcement that WrestleMania was going to be in New Orleans only a couple of months later to be like, "You know what? We got a better offer somewhere else. We're just going to pull out and you guys get money in the bank instead. We're going to go back to Las Vegas because Las Vegas paid us more money." That's exactly what happened. The moves at WWE/TKO, and it's really TKO because they do this with the UFC as well. I mean, dude, they are just money hungry. They're fueled by greed. That is the definition of TKO. They are fueled by greed. And R-Truth and Carlito were the victims of that, unfortunately, and they lost their jobs. Now, what is R-Truth? Primarily R-Truth. I mean, Carlito's going to be fine. I see him going to possibly like maybe TNA or maybe Wrestle Indies, but Carlito's going to be fine. But what is R-Truth going to be doing? I mean, how old is R-Truth? I believe R-Truth is like, 53 years old? He doesn't age. He does not look like he's 53, but he's been wrestling for well over 20 years. He's been wrestling for years at this point. He's 53 years old. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that R-Truth, he's going to be job. No. But, what do I think R-Truth is going to be doing? What do I think R-Truth is going to be doing? I think a lot of people are immediately assuming AEW, and I tell people this all the time. Just because you get released from the WWE doesn't guarantee you success if you go to AEW. We've seen many instances of guys going to AEW and not be successful there. The grass is not always greener on the other side. The grass is always green where you water it. That's a very important quote that I just stated right there. A very important quote. The grass is not always greener on the other side. The grass is only greener if you water it. And a lot of guys, unfortunately, that go to AEW don't become successful. Look at Malachi Black. Look at Andrade. Look at Miro. He was successful at first, but then he kind of fell by the wayside. I think it's a situation in which AEW, some wrestlers fit in AEW, some don't. Some fit better in the WWE environment than in the AEW environment. That's what I see. But I don't see Ron the Truth Killings coming into AEW. I just don't see that being the case. Could I see him making a return to TNA? Absolutely. After all, he dealt with the previous regime, not the current regime. TNA, You know, the management in TNA is not the same management that was in TNA over 20 years ago. It's not. It's a different regime. Anthem is running TNA. But R-Truth could be the perfect fit for, he could be a perfect fit for TNA. A perfect fit, because it could also be a homecoming of some sorts. It could be a homecoming of some sorts. Or could R-Truth just wrestle on the indies? Because I don't care what anybody says. If R-Truth hits the indies, dude, the guy's going to get booked everywhere. He's going to get booked everywhere. Everybody's going to want to book R-Truth if he wrestles in the indies. Everybody. I'm talking about GCW, Progress, all these indie federations, they are going to book R-Truth or Ron Killings. Everybody's going to sign, or not sign this guy, but book him on an indie show. Dude, the guy can easily market himself so well on the independents. Look at guys like Matt Cardona. When Matt Cardona got let go by the WWE, what was it, 2020? 2019, 2020? He went straight to GCW and literally became the talk of the entire wrestling industry after beating Nick Gage. I always mention that. There's always hope for you. Look, just because you get released from the WWE doesn't mean the end of your story. It's actually a blessing in disguise. I mean, R-Truth, I don't know. We don't know what R-Truth wants to do with his career. For all intents and purposes, he probably wants to retire. We don't know. But I could definitely see R-Truth either wrestling in TNA or in the indies. And he'd be successful in all of those aspects. In all of those areas, he would be successful. The next project or the next thing that R-Truth is going to be doing for his career, he's going to be 100% successful at it because he's that damn good at what he does. Those are my thoughts on R-Truth. Thanks, guys, for checking out this clip of the WrestleHavoc podcast. If you guys want more clips like this, please make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc Clips channel right here on YouTube. If you guys want to watch the full show, the link will be in the description below. Catch new episodes of the WrestleHavoc podcast every Sunday night live, not only on the main WrestleHavoc channel, but also on the WNN World News Network YouTube channel and Facebook page. I'll see you guys all in the next video. Peace.